Welcome to the Be a Brilliant Human podcast. You're in the right place if you're a growth-seeking being who acknowledges the challenges and delights of your humanity on the path to an ever more conscious life. If you want to feel inspired to love and accept yourself, to feel free to be and express you in all your brilliance, if you want to truly value yourself and others and feel energized and alive both at home and in the world, then sit back and take a breath as you explore and grow the brilliance of your beautiful human self with your host, the father of non-personal awareness and creator of the MPA process, Joel Young.
Hello, and welcome to the Be a Brilliant Human podcast with me, Joel Young. If you've just found us, welcome. It's so lovely to have you here. I'm delighted that you've chosen to spend this time with me. And if you're coming back, then you'll know that I always love to acknowledge my regular listener, or you as a regular listener. Again, so appreciating the decision. There's so many paths we can choose, aren't there, with the time that we have. So I do really honor the preciousness of the decision of you spending your time. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do that. Click the subscribe button wherever you're listening to this podcast. Whatever platform it's on, there'll be a way somewhere, because they all do. So go ahead and do that. And of course, just again, if you're new, I'm always open to feedback, to questions, to any contact from you, really. Let me know how you find this podcast, not just how you found it, but how you find it, how it affects you, what you take away from these pontifications. And this week's shout out goes to Jane Griffin. She's at Duvet Day 40 on Instagram. She was talking about episode 21, which is the Dark Night of the Soul episode. And she said to me, this was, I think, in a comment in IG. She said, Instagram, that is a short. That's what the kids say. IG. So she said, just listen to this episode. So helpful. One particular poignant bit, your words on letting it happen with the least resistance. Because when it's going to happen anyway, letting go is so wise/helpful. So the phrase, I can very kindly say to myself now, this is happening, so letting go means it will be so much easier. She goes on, this really helps as I've been, and she puts in brackets, notice the past tense, a resistance freak, but now I'm a letting go lily. Lovely podcast, Joel. Really comforting a way through. And then a nice heart emoji at the end. Well, thank you so much, Jane. I love the idea that you're now a letting go lily. It does fascinate me to know how, some episodes really seem to touch people. And again, episode 21 seems to have done that. And if you haven't yet heard it or want to revisit it, you can find a link on today's show notes, or just go directly there just by typing www.beabrillianthuman.com/21 into your browser, obviously. And beabrillianthuman.com, if you think, what number is the episode that I want to listen to, or you just want to take a punt, beabrillianthuman.com/ the number of the episode will always get you there. Okay, so today we're talking about finding happiness. Now, it's no accident I'm doing this in the midst of the coronavirus. That's what's going on as I record this in mid-March 2020. Happiness is really important. It's important that we're mindful of it to reduce the fear, really. And, in a way, it's been said by a lot of people, I notice on social media, and I certainly agree, that fear tends to suppress the immune system. So this week's and next week's episode are really offering you practical tools to help you with that. And the focus is quite deliberately on inner states of well-being rather than, necessarily looking at the fear. Now, I do have an episode which talks about fear, episode number 18. And I do make the point in that episode that, there are times when fear has its place, but it really is about discerning when that fear is unhelpful. And in this case, we're looking at happiness, which is a way to direct your attention to something which will be a natural counteraction to stress and fear. And of course, you can go to beabrillianthuman.com/18, and any episodes that I reference in this episode will also be available in the show notes. Okay, so I have a question for you on happiness. Are you happy, my lovely? Well, maybe it's not such a straightforward question to answer with a simple yes, no. I mean, perhaps you feel generally happy or generally unhappy. Perhaps you feel unhappy about certain situations in your life. Perhaps you're not even sure what happy actually means. Perhaps you'd like to feel happier. Perhaps there are even times when you feel you are inappropriately happy. You know, maybe people will think you don't care about that serious thing that's going on if you express that happiness. And, I'm sure that, you have the capacity to boil that answer down to a yes, no, that kind of binary answer. I mean, we all do it all the time. It's a social norm. Like, how you doing? Fine, thanks. That's like saying I'm happy, right? Happy with your meal, sir? Yes, thank you. Straight binary yes or no. Well, I'm a great believer in the power of clarity. So today I'm going to dig a little deeper into the whole happiness thing. So firstly, I'm going to share a way you can find out what's your happiness, what happiness looks like to you in any given situation. It's a really quick and powerful exercise that helps you align with yourself and what you truly want, rather than flail around in some nebulous idea of what, in quotes, people say is a good idea to want or what will make you happy. Now, a core aspect of MPA and the non-personal philosophy is to honor your expression, to find words that truly click for you. That way, you actually invoke the power of your word and really start shifting things on your journey. After that, we'll look at how you can navigate the road from inner lockdown to your happiness. And in other words, how to find happiness within yourself. Sound good? All right, let's get into it. So it's easy to get swept up in the general meanings of words. Each word is simply a label that points to an experience, but within us, we each hold like a complex database of meanings for each word, based on context, tone, memory, and a whole host of other factors. It's quite mind-boggling when you really get into it. In fact, I talked about this in a bit more detail about labels and meanings in episode 7, so you can always go back and check out episode number 7 if you want to get into this in detail. But this is very much the case, especially for words like happiness. So when you talk about finding happiness, it's easy to reduce it to that kind of jumping for joy kind of happiness. The trouble is with, reducing a rich, deep vein of possible experiences like happiness, to some minimal, stereotypical sliver of those possibilities, is you can easily exclude yourself from aligning with the vibration of happiness at all. I'm not jumping for joy, so I'm not happy. So I know I'm kind of oversimplifying things here, and rarely is the self-limitation so obvious, but in a more nuanced way, that's often what we do. So I'm going to say it. Happiness isn't always about smiling and jumping for joy. Sometimes happiness is a sense of inner relief or a settling of something that's been turbulent or conflicted and seemingly unresolvable inside. So when it comes to looking for happiness, it's important to get clear on what that actually means to you. In other words, what's your happiness? Now, I was taught this lesson by a client many years ago. So this client, she came along, going through the process of booking me for my sessions, turns up, I said, so why are you here? And she says, I want to be happy. So I say, tell me about that. What's going on? So she started talking, and everything she was describing about being happy, it just sounded grumpy and dissatisfied. It wasn't clicking. It wasn't resonating. It just wasn't true. So I kind of heard something come out of my mouth, which is not necessarily the normal mode of someone who's, facilitating or being a therapist or a coach or whatever. I said to her very directly, you don't want to be happy. She was like, what? You can't say that. Everyone wants to be happy. Well, who wouldn't want to be happy? So I said to her, well, I'm not saying that there isn't some wonderful state that you're wanting to experience. It's just that happiness ain't it. Whenever you talk about wanting happiness, it's causing you stress. So I said, what if you could simply stop the chase right now? Stop that chase for happiness. And what if you could just drop the idea that happiness is what you want? And then, what if you could simply wonder, I wonder if there was some wonderful state that I truly wanted to experience, what might that be? Now, it took a bit of work for her to stop the momentum. She had a lot of momentum around chasing this happiness idea. But she was able to drop it, and then she began to truly wonder. And it was such a sort of miracle to watch, as she sort of really was able to go into a state, from stopping the chase and dropping the idea, and then coming to that neutrality and being open to truly wonder. And suddenly, her whole being relaxed. She sighed a deep sigh and said, "Peace. I want peace." Now, you could feel the truth of that. How the word peace connected deeply, it connected physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. She was aligned. She was clear. So, says I, and, well, now that you know that what you truly want is peace, how does that make you feel? Happy, she said. It was such a great learning to experience that. You see, she'd been chasing some idea of happiness, but her happiness in the moment was peace. So if you're telling yourself that you want to be happy, but somehow it's not feeling good, here's those steps. It's very, very simple. Step 1, stop. Stop the momentum, breathe. It can be as simple as a decision, or just letting the realization sink in that this chase that you've been on for that thing you say you want or want to feel, it isn't working. So just stop. Then drop it, drop the idea. This is about consciously letting go of the old idea. That's number 2, drop. Just let go of your idea. The sense of just coming to neutral, finding that genuine non-attachment. Now, in terms of dropping it, in terms of the inner decision, there's a way you'll just feel that you've let it go. And this is where the magic starts to happen with step 3, which is wonder. Ask yourself, if there was some wonderful state which I truly wanted to experience, what might that be? I love the statement, I wonder, with that tonality, I wonder, and then pause. Try it out for yourself. I wonder. It naturally puts you in a state of openness to receive. And it is important that I say here that you let the answer find you. This isn't about invoking your mind to go and figure out what the alternative version of happiness is. If your mind could have done that, it would have done it already. It comes from the magic zone. The magic zone is from that openness to receive. Allow the answer to find you. Now, I will say this, simple exercise, it's not just for happiness. It works, whenever you're chasing something that you think you want, but it's causing stress. So go and have a play with it and let me know what you discover. Okay, so now we've established that when I use the word happiness, I'm referring to whatever your happiness is. Let's look at that emotional journey from the not happy to the happy. I think it's fair to say if you're looking for happiness, then you're probably not happy right now. And today I want to focus really on one of the biggest traps that keeps us stuck in that unhappiness, and then talk about the route out of there. And that's the trap of happiness being dependent on external circumstances. So when you're twisted up inside, it's easy to get fixated on some external circumstance. It has to happen. The only route to happiness or peace is when this happens. It can create that inner lockdown, the lodged in body fear and pain, and that's going to restrict your inner vision and your outer vision. It can become, really hard or even impossible to see any other route to happiness than that thing out there changing, exactly as you want it, by the way. And even if some higher part of you knows better. Now, obviously, sometimes what's truest and most aligned is to do that thing. It is about the circumstances. To give, say, a relationship example might be, if you might really need to lay down a boundary for someone else so they have an opportunity to get clear and, if honoring it is aligned for them. That's kind of a relationship example where, it makes sense. It really is going to be the thing that needs to happen. Your whole body and everything that's giving you stress is that you're not creating healthy boundaries. And so sometimes it is pointing to an action. But if that thing itself creates conflict or doesn't have a full yes, then that means there's more inner work to do. Now, this kind of lockdown shows up especially when really deep core pain surfaces. The mind activates those core survival strategies to protect you from the core pain. But if it's twisting you in worse knots now, then it tells you that strategy, that old, probably childhood strategy, has outlived its usefulness. The medicine has become the poison. So what's the route out? Well, of course, there's always many routes, and certainly you could use the MPA process in this situation to disconnect the link, come back to you, and make happiness available now. And it also can be deeply powerful to take the somatic route, i.e., get into the body and your feelings, to come within. In other words, to feel your way through, to face that tangle of emotion and mind and separate the wheat from the chaff through direct feeling. Well, what might that look like, I hear you ask? Well, again, seeing as I'm recording this in March 2020 and that coronavirus, self-isolation and the absence of toilet rolls is creating frenzy, disruption and fear across the globe. Let's use that as an example. So imagine that you're feeling yourself, or you're telling yourself that you'll be happy when all this is over. Now that's focusing on outside conditions over which you have no control. I mean, you can do your bit, but fundamentally it's bigger than you or any one of us. And of course, it's delaying the experience of happiness. So instead, come back to you and connect to what you are actually feeling. So let's say, for example, I'm not saying this is what you're feeling, but let's say, for example, it's fear. So just simply let yourself feel it. Notice, where in your body you feel it. Literally kind of explore the feeling, welcome it even. Or to paraphrase the last line of the MPA process, be willing to experience it. Now, here's the thing. When you give your emotions space, time, and permission to be, they naturally pass, flowing like water. And often the experience of that is you'll find there are layers of emotion that sort of distance you from your center. So I encourage you to not rush it. Don't rush it. Don't have an agenda. Just notice and allow. And you'll likely find that, the emotion shifts and something else, let's say anger, comes up. It could be another layer of emotion. So if anger comes up, great. Follow the same process of exploration and allowance. Now, other layers may follow, and at some point, probably quicker and more easily than you imagine, there'll be some kind of sense of relief, like an opening, a flow, some kind of emotion that is in the spectrum of you're happy, whatever you've identified as that in this situation. And remember what I said, happiness isn't always about smiling and jumping for joy. Sometimes happiness is a sense of inner relief. So when you get to that point, just relish the relief and even, welcome that. It might even take you deeper into your happiness. But again, don't push it. If it's there naturally to sort of go deeper into that, great. Perhaps a gentle relief is enough. Now, there isn't sort of a formulaic step-by-step order I can give you for feeling your way through things. There's no ordered hierarchy of emotions where one certain emotion is always followed by another certain emotion. It really is a matter of exploration and, of course, willingness and persistence. And like anything, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. Now, fair warning, the mind generally, I don't want to pre-pave the negative here or anything, but the mind generally will do everything it can to keep you, paying attention to it, to get you hooked back into that external condition or trap you in a cycle of the same emotion. But remember, the mind, just like the heart, is ultimately looking for softness, safety, and a resolution that will end the pain. So my best advice here for you is to really be gentle with yourself as you feel your way through. Now, this kind of exercise can be actually a revelation and even give you some of the deepest experiences of divine inner connection. That's been my experience, and credit where it's due. I first came across this idea of feeling through layers of emotions via Brandon Bayes' journey method, and you can Google that and look that up. I've also seen it used and taught by other people in different ways. The principle's the same, and it makes sense because it's the nature of emotions. For example, it was done a different way, but in Mars and Venus, that famous book, and the author's name doesn't spring to mind. I'm sure someone will tell me. But he talked about, especially the nature of Venus, the woman, has emotions in waves, emotional waves, and it's for men to understand. It's a wave of emotion. But it's been written about in many different ways that we have these waves of emotion. So the principle, very simply, is to just let yourself feel it, welcome it, rather than trying to push it away or control it. You allow it. Just notice and allow. It will pass. Sometimes there will be multiple layers, but at some point, it's like those waves will calm down, and you'll find that inner stillness, that center within. So again, give this one a go and let me know what you experience. So both those exercises I've given you today are really powerful and have a good chance of really helping you access more happiness than you might otherwise. Again, whatever your happiness is. And while there's much that you can do on your own, I've got to say nothing beats having someone else to hold that space for you, especially someone who understands and knows how to help you stay with yourself as you walk through your personal valley of the shadow of death. And because, facing this depth of pain can seem terrifying, especially if it's new to you. But, after years of walking people through their valleys, I know it can be easier and quicker than you think. And the impact is so deeply life enhancing. So if you're feeling locked down and twisted up inside, I can be that soft, steady, guiding presence for you if you'd like. Of course, there's lots of options of people, but if you want to have a look at my one-to-one session info, you just need to go to www.joelyoungnpa.com/sessions, and you'll find out all the information there. Again, as always, that will be linked on the show notes, and I think there's generally a link on all my websites to find how to work with me one-on-one. Okay, let's do a quick summary. So first up, the happiness label can potentially be a bit misleading. So it's important to find a resonant label or state, if you like, that is you're happy in a particular context. And remember, it's not like once you find you're happy, that's it across the board. It will be different in different contexts. So the clue is, when you're wanting to or striving for a particular state, and all it brings is frustration, or you find yourself striving but not really shifting, that tells you that, that's not your happiness, and it's time to examine what that really is. So then it's time to try my stop, drop, and wander process. So again, let's go through that quickly. So step one, stop the momentum of the chase. Simply realize that what you think you want is not it. Take a breath and let that truth land. 2, drop. Consciously drop the idea and come to neutral. And then 3, wonder. Just let yourself wonder. Literally say to yourself, I wonder if there was some positive state which I truly wanted to experience, what might that be? And again, be still and let the answer find you. And next up, watch out for the trap of conditional happiness. In other words, buying the idea that something external and likely out of your control needs to happen before you let yourself be happy. Come within and connect to your emotions. Feel your way through the emotions. There might be a few layers until you feel some sort of relief or your version of happiness. And finally, if you're having difficulty feeling happy or get stuck, then remember that your happiness is worth investing in, so consider getting help. All right, well, that's a wrap for today. I'm taking a break from tomorrow for a week as it's my birthday on Sunday. But don't worry, next week's episode will be there. It's just make sure you subscribe so you can get it. In fact, make sure you tune in next week because I'll be going even deeper into the realm of the conditionality trap. And I'm sharing a really powerful exercise that will help you free yourself from that. I'll tell you, it's based on an exercise from Abraham Hicks, if you know who that is. If you don't, you can Google it again. But it's been given the Joel Young treatment, so it can truly meet you where you are and take you step by step out of a sucky situation and into a much more empowering state of being. Plus, I'll be sharing specific instructions on how you can use MPA to supercharge that exercise. So you could say next week is a mini training that you'll not want to miss. And spoiler alert, I've even got a free worksheet for you for next week. So think of that as my birthday gift for you. And I know, now I've told you it's my birthday on Sunday, you're wondering, what does Joel want for his birthday? Well, how kind of you to think of that, and thanks for asking. I actually have a birthday list, so I can make it easy for you. So first up, if you haven't yet subscribed, then for my birthday, I'd love your subscription on whatever podcast platform you listen to. Just make that extra effort. It's my birthday. And especially if you listen on iTunes. And if you've already subscribed or you're just feeling super generous, then I'd love a review. Again, ideally on the podcast platform. And this, again, is especially valuable on iTunes, but it's great anywhere. And feedback and shares on social media are also great. Thank you very much for that. And by the way, if you do share the podcast, leave a review, I genuinely love to acknowledge you either in the shout out or just one-on-one, wherever you do it. So you can ping me on social media, let me know, or tag me in the shared post or PM me, whatever. Send me an email. Just let me know you've done it so that I can acknowledge you. All right, I think that is a wrap for me. So thanks so much for being here. As ever, I hope this has stirred you, touched you, and given you a perspective that helps you up your game in some form. If you like what you hear, remember to go tell someone. And of course, you can check out the show notes for today, which will have a recap. I'll lay out that stop, drop, and wonder exercise. You'll find it today at www.beabrillianthuman.com/26. And of course, you can also get in touch if you'd like to find out about sessions with me. There's a lot going on in the air right now. I know there's a lot of people worried with the finances and stuff, but it is worth investing in yourself, because what do we have if not our well-being? So again, joelyoungmpa.com/sessions for that. You can also on that page book a 10-minute free call with me if you just want to chat things through, connect, make sure our chemistry clicks when we're in person, that kind of thing. That's what that is for. So go ahead, subscribe, review. Thank you for my birthday presents in advance. I'll see you next week. All that remains, my beautiful, beautiful listener, is to cue the moo.